Welcome to today's explainer on human resilience, everyone. As university students, it's so easy to take our morning coffee, our Wi-Fi, and honestly, our very existence completely for granted as we go about our daily studies. But today, we're going to reframe our existence, not as an inevitable given, but as a hard-won, bloody victory. Because the fact that you are sitting here today, learning and breathing, it's nothing short of an absolute statistical anomaly. All right, looking at our syllabus for today, we're going to cover the miracle of existence and then count down through 5 historical stress tests: surviving the Ice Age, the agricultural trap, the Mongol invasions, the Black Death, and finally, the Toba extinction bottleneck. So let's jump right into Section 1, the miracle of existence. The fundamental thesis of our explainer today is the sheer improbability of human survival. To really set the stage, just think about the contrast between you and your ancestors. Think about yourself, the modern descendant. You're trying to get through your university coursework, maybe nursing a mild caffeine dependency, right? A little snack addiction. Your biggest daily threat is probably a looming essay deadline. Now contrast that with your distant ancestor. They had no name, no shoes, and were likely squatting in the dirt, chewing on a beetle, and just trying to avoid getting eaten by something with incredibly large, sharp teeth before sundown. The visceral tension here is real. I mean, that ancestor had absolutely no idea that you would ever exist.
And this brings us to a profound realization. You're the byproduct of violent coincidence and stubborn biology. You aren't just lucky. You exist strictly because, over millions of years, thousands upon thousands of people in your exact ancestral chain didn't trip at the wrong moment, didn't get eaten, and didn't succumb to a random infection when they absolutely scientifically should have. You are the literal result of ancestors who simply refuse to die.
Moving right along to Section 2, surviving the Ice Age. We're starting our countdown of stress tests at number 5. We're traveling back roughly 20,000 years to the last glacial maximum. We are talking about a massive 10-degree Fahrenheit or 6 degrees Celsius drop in average global temperatures. That turned the planet into an absolute frozen wasteland. Massive ice sheets, some up to 2 miles thick, smothered huge portions of North America, Europe, and Asia. Finding food back then wasn't a daily chore, it was a distant rumor.
But against all odds, early Homo sapiens somehow engineered their survival. Just picture your daily routine back then. You're trying not to die of hypothermia while living in a hut made entirely out of mammoth bones, shoved inside with 40 of your least favorite relatives. You're wearing animal hides stitched together with tiny bone needles. And for dinner? Well, you had to go hunt a 6-ton woolly mammoth, literally the size of a school bus, using nothing but a sharpened stick, all while avoiding the cave lion, which was one of the largest wildcats in history. And what's really wild is that they relied entirely on home remedies for infected cuts, just chewing random plants because antibiotics didn't exist. Yet in the absolute middle of this frozen nightmare, they somehow still found time to master fire and create breathtaking art in places like Lascaux.
Which brings us to Section 3, the agricultural trap.
For our number 4 stress test, let's jump to about 10,000 years ago. Early humans got tired of chasing mammoths across the frozen wilderness and had what they thought was a brilliant idea. Instead of chasing food, let's make the food come to us. So they swapped nomadic hunting for settling down in permanent villages to grow wheat, barley, and lentils. Now that sounds like a massive upgrade, right? But the reality is they accidentally made life much, much harder. This shift unleashed an absolute buffet of new problems. First, living in tight, permanent communities meant that for the very first time, diseases could spread like wildfire. Second, their diets actually got worse. They had way less protein and more vitamin deficiencies, which led to malnutrition, anemia, and teeth that literally rotted out of their skulls. Archaeologists have found the skeletons to prove these horrifying dental disasters. And third, they became completely at the mercy of the weather. One bad drought, one random flood, or a swarm of locusts meant the entire village starved to death.
All right, let's look at Section 4, the Mongol invasions.
Shifting from environmental stress to extreme human conflict, our number 3 trial drops us in the 13th century. Listen, if you saw a cloud of dust on the horizon back then, you had about 3 minutes to panic before your entire city was turned into a parking lot. Led by Genghis Khan, the Mongols treated mercy like a myth. They showed up fast, they hit incredibly hard, and they left nothing standing. They essentially invented mobile warfare centuries before tanks even existed, using horse archers who could accurately hit a target from 300 yards away while riding at a full gallop. It was terrifying.
What's truly horrifying here is the sheer scale of this conflict.
Historians estimate that the Mongols killed around 10% of the entire world's population. 10%! And keep in mind, the global population at this time was already incredibly small. Entire cities were just wiped off the map, testing human resilience in the face of brutal, relentless war.
Next up, Section 5, the Black Death.
Our second deadliest bottleneck was an unstoppable biological wildfire that arrived in Europe in 1347. Survival here became a complete lottery. The culprit was the Yersinia pestis bacterium, which was carried across continents by rats and some highly motivated fleas. But what really poured gasoline on the fire was that medieval society had absolutely zero concept of personal hygiene. You could literally catch the bubonic plague from a handshake or sharing a cup. The symptoms were the stuff of nightmares, giant swollen lymph nodes, high fevers, and vomiting blood, usually resulting in death within days. And the medical response? Well, peak medieval science consisted of doctors walking around wearing those incredibly creepy bird masks stuffed with flowers, essentially trying to just vibe check the plague away.
You really have to grasp the sheer magnitude of this mortality rate because it is almost impossible to comprehend. We are talking about somewhere between 30 to 60% of Europe's entire population being wiped out in just a few short years. Entire villages were completely abandoned, massive economies collapsed overnight, and the whole social fabric of the continent was just torn to shreds.
And finally, Section 6, the Toba Extinction Bottleneck. This brings us to our #1 existential threat. This was an event that nearly deleted humanity entirely. When the Toba supervolcano erupted roughly 74,000 years ago, it launched over 670 cubic miles of ash into the sky. To put that into perspective, that is enough ash to cover the entire United States. It triggered a catastrophic volcanic winter. Imagine spending your entire life in darkness because sunlight was blocked out for an estimated 6 to 10 years. Global temperatures crashed by an astonishing 27 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius. The result was a frozen desert landscape. Ecosystems collapsed, plants withered, animals starved, and rivers dried up. Early humans, who were already struggling just to find enough calories to survive a normal day, were suddenly plunged into freezing, sunless starvation.
Fewer than 3,000. Let that sink in. That is the ultimate testament to human resilience. The total human population shrank to fewer than 3,000 individuals worldwide. This is the ultimate genetic bottleneck. Every single person sitting in this university today and every single person alive on Earth right now descends from this tiny, tiny handful of stubborn survivors. They had no crops, no animals, no sunlight, and 0 second chances. Yet, desperate and freezing, they simply refused to give up when everything else on the planet did. Which leaves us with this final thought. You are the walking, breathing miracle that your ancestors fought mammoths, plagues, and volcanic winters for. As students studying human resilience, you have inherited a biology forged in the absolute harshest conditions imaginable. So the real question is, as we sit in our comfortable climate-controlled rooms today, has our comfort softened us? Will natural selection eventually catch up to you? It's definitely something to think about the next time you feel overwhelmed by a minor modern inconvenience. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible, improbable story of our survival.